I'm going to buy one now. I have a
Me too.
hatchet. I
Me
have a
too.
hatchet and I have a maul, but I don't have like a true, anyways. Hello, everybody. It's Jake Stenziano, host of Wheelbarrow Props Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, father, six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good, even though I don't have gel in my hair. Your hair is looking really good today. I
so
like
nice
it.
right now. It smells so good, too. It's the Billy, baby. It's
I
the
wish
Billy.
I was sitting next to you right now. I could smell you a little bit, You're looking good, so that's all
Smelling
that
Billy
matters, bro.
jealousy, man. I just got out of the shower. What can I say? All right. We're having fun today. Today's guest is Dana Wilde. Dana is the best-selling author of Train Your Brain and the creator of The Celebrity Formula. She built her business from $0 to $1 million in under 19 months. Now the host of The Mind Aware. She teaches people how to train their brain to do the same. I'm miggity Mac today, Gino. So without further ado, Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Oh gosh, this is going to be so fun. I can hardly stand it. We are going to have such a good time. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Tell us a little bit how you built the business and the success you're having. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting story here.
Well, as the name would indicate, my expertise is brain training. Train Your Brain is the name of my book, and it's all about how mindset. Yeah, I know. It's like your little brain has a little dumbbell set that it goes up. But it's really all about how mindset is the single most important thing in building a business, that you get your mindset right first and then build a business. And so when I started this, if you can imagine, I was the ripe old age of 19 and I was working in a major corporation, one of those cubicle jobs, which is the worst, right? You're wired in to a headset, much like I am today, except that you have to ask to go to the bathroom and, you have to ask for time off. And I know you all know how horrible that can be to not be your own boss.
I just want to go potty.
Yeah, isn't it terrible? It's like, can I please go to my sister's wedding? Is it okay? Can I stay off, please? So, the one benefit of that job was that they put us through this very intensive course about how the brain worked. So I really started to understand at a young age how the brain worked. And so I immediately quit the cubicle job and I started like my grand adventure, and I just traveled all over the world, lived out of a backpack for about a decade. And when I came back, I realized like, oh my gosh, I have no skills. I've been living out of a backpack for a decade. I have nothing I can put on a resume. I'm totally unemployable. So I fell into a direct sales business at that time. The first business was a direct sales business, like Party Plan, maybe heard of those. And everybody was teaching how to pick up the phone, how to network, all this stuff. And I thought, gosh, why is nobody talking about mindset? So I wrote Train Your Brain at that time. And that first business went from $0 to $1 million in 19 months. We just shattered industry records. It was never heard of to do that fast, in a Party Plan business. And I built that business for about 6 years, then I sold it. And I founded The Mind Aware, and we did the same thing. We went from $0 to $1 million and 60,000 followers in less than 2 years. And I'm telling you, it's 100% brain training. Like I tell people, I have, especially when I started, no idea what I'm doing in most other areas of my business, but I got this down. I know how when you think right, then you make better decisions, and that happiness is basically practical, and that brain training can be taught. Like I've now taught tens of thousands, we've got over 100,000 followers in 110 countries. So, I've taught lots of people how to do this, and it's learnable. Even if you were raised in a negative environment, even if you've been negative, like mindset matters most. You can learn all the strategies in the world, but you got to get that right mindset, and then those strategies work.
Everyone needs to write that down. Think right will lead to better decisions. That's really important. That's the crux of it. Let me ask you, Dana, how do you start? If you're out there, you're listening, you're driving, you're at work, and you just don't want to go to work, and you're in a negative mindset, because I'm a life coach, and I really believe energy levels and energy blocks play into this really important. Because if you're thinking wrong, you're not going to pick up the phone to call the broker. You're not going to pick up the phone and make an offer. So let's start out by like, okay, let's train your brain. How do I start? I'm in a funk right now. How do I start getting in my mindset going?
Great question. So here's the most important thing to know. This is the foundation of everything I teach. And by the way, I want to go on record as saying that I will talk about brain science, but I am a high school graduate. Like, I am not some Harvard researcher, neuroscience person. I'm just somebody who's a brain geek, and I've studied a lot about this, and I can explain it in ways.
So we can trust you then.
Yes, you can. And a high school student could understand it. Like, right? This is it. So there's.
Because I'm a little iffy on the Harvard grad. I'm just saying.
I love it. So there's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. And
shit.
Yeah.
That sounds like Harvard. That sounds like Harvard. You're scaring me now.
I know. That's the biggest word the words I'm going to use. So think of it like the RAS. It's the RAS. It's the RAS. And it is like a little matchmaker that lives in your head. And this is for real. This is like a real thing, a real part of the brain that everybody has. And if you look in the room you're sitting in now and look at like the sounds and sensations and colors and stimuli, like we have so much information coming at us every second of every day. Well, that RAS stands at attention all day, every day, and it's like a little matchmaker that lives in your head. And what's it doing? It's sifting through the mucky muck, and it's looking for whatever you're thinking about and whatever you're talking about. So if you've ever had the experience of looking for a new car, and then you start to see that car everywhere, it's because you're thinking about it. And when you're thinking about something, your brain goes, man, this must be important to me. You're thinking about this an awful lot, right? So if you're thinking things like, I don't want to go to my job. I hate doing this. I'm never going to be able to be free. I'm never going to be able to be self-employed. Things aren't working. You know, your brain is saying, hey, this is important to you. We're going to help match that up for you. I'm going to help make decisions for you so that you're never going to make this work and you're never going to be self-employed. So that is the step one. Step one is you have to be aware, wake up and realize that you can be a proactive thinker in your head. And so you're in that car, you're on the way to work, and you're thinking all those terrible thoughts. That's the time to bust yourself, right? You have to bust yourself and be your own thought police and go like, hold on, this is not the Gino or the Jake I want to be. This is not the Dana I want to be. I want to be a proactive thinker. I can choose the clothes I wear. I can choose the house I buy. I can choose the food I eat. I can choose my thoughts. And so I'm going to choose right now. And I'm going to start thinking a thought. Step two, you decide, do I want to match this? No, I don't want to keep matching this. I'm going to change it. Step three is you got to find a way to talk about the current situation.
Hold on. What you went from 0 to 100 here. So we want to be aware.
Put a nickel in me.
We want to be aware, and then do we want to match? Let's dig a little deeper there. Talk about that.
Well, you know, here's the thing. Most of the world, brain scientists estimate, most of the world is running on automatic pilot about 95 to 99% of the day. You're unconscious. You're getting up, you're making your coffee, you're brushing your teeth. Yeah, not even thinking about it. And sometimes habits serve us. And so it's fine. You don't have to be like a Zen monk where you're just like aware every minute of every day. But the challenge with automatic pilot, you know, is that we get into these chronic habits of thought too. And so we find this little background noise of stress, or stress about money, or worry about money, or thinking about something in a way that doesn't feel like it's going to give us the outcome that we want. And so the wake up step is so important, because if we're just running on automatic pilot, here's how most people live, right? They have a habit of thought. The reticular activating system matches it up in the outside world. They get a result they don't want, and so they bitch about it. And then they complain and whine and complain and whine. They create a bunch of emotion around that result. And then they reinforce it in their unconscious mind. Then the reticular activating system matches it up. Then they complain about it. And then they reinforce it in the unconscious mind. Then the reticular activating system matches it up and they complain. We call this the cycle of perpetual sameness.
So here's my question. I don't want to like blow something up potentially later, but do you think this is the point of the process where incantations are so important, because you're just flooding the brain with good juju and it's pushing out the rest of the shit?
Yes, that's step 3, dude. That's step 3.
Oh man, I thought we were still in step 2. Like, we're moving and shaking.
Yeah, so step 3, you know, incantations, declarations, affirmations, we call them mantras. The idea is, how can I talk about the current situation in a way that feels good? How can I shake it loose?
With
Now,
high volume, right? You can't just do it. You got to bring the volume on at some point to get the rest of the crap out, right?
yes, and I can give you a totally really good example how to get there. Because I think the biggest challenge with the positive thinking movement right now is that people are trying to start here. So they're trying to start with, I am abundant, I am smart, money flows to me in great quantities, and it feels like bullshit to them. So when you can start to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good, and then in a way that feels real, but good, and then ramp it up, then you get the positive emotion. I can give you an example of that if you like.
Yeah,
Give it.
I love that.
Of course. We want to
So-
know. Come
Okay,
on.
so what would be like the biggest, what would you think, your listeners, what do you think the biggest issue they're grappling with right now? The biggest problem?
To me, a lot of them, they want their time freedom back. I think they want to get into multifamily. They want to get into real estate because I don't think they want to work less. I think they just want to be able to say, I want to go to my daughter's wedding, and I don't have to ask anybody.
I have an answer for that too. I think it's actually, I think that's what they want, but I think what they're actually dealing with is limiting beliefs.
Yes, but what limiting belief? So is a limiting belief they have that they
Oh, so
can't
it's like
do it?
multifamily, they
Yeah.
want it, but it seems like a pie in the sky. I think
They're-
a lot
they're
of
not
people
s-
think it's
They're not
it's-
smart
it's-
enough.
no.
They're not
They don't have enough
hardworking
credibility. Maybe
They
they don't
can't
have
do it. Like,
credibility,
it's
they
not
don't
for
have
me. I
time.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Or it's okay, those guys can do it, but I can't.
Yes, I
Yes.
think that's what a lot of people struggle
Let's
with.
start with that one. Okay, so any
Hmm.
of those, all of those I said, you can do exactly what I'm talking about just on that. So here's the thing. If I have a belief system, if somebody's listening and the belief system is, yeah, but that won't work for me. That worked for them, but this won't work for me. You know, and I'm like, and I feel that defeated feeling. And then I have that wake up moment. I bust myself and I go, oh, I remember Dana Wilde said that my brain is matching up everything I'm thinking about.
Busted.
Dang it. So I just had that thought that said, like, that won't work for me. I don't want to match that up. I don't like that, but it really feels real. You know, that feels real, but I really don't want to match that up. So now I've done step 2. So step 3 is I got to find a way to talk about this in a different way. Okay. So I'm thinking to myself, that works for them, but it's not going to work for me. And so I can see why I feel that way. Like I feel that way because it does seem pie in the sky. It seems like a really big thing, and that is huge. And I do want that, you know, I know like I want that, and I'm excited about the idea, but I'm not sure about my abilities, and that's okay. That's okay. I've actually felt this way about other things before. I understand that the self-doubt, and I've had self-doubt about things before. And, you know, I know, like, I'm not one of these people where I'm a get rich quick person. I'm willing to put the work in. I know that about myself, and I know that I'm willing to learn. And I know that I've got desire about this, and that that's going to take me a big part of the way. And that honestly, it's learnable. Like they're not asking me to do
It's not
surgery.
rocket science.
Yeah, I'm not having to like cut somebody open and work on their, you know, heart or anything. This is something where I could sit down, I could study this, and I could figure this out. And I have the idea that it doesn't have to take me like really, really fast to do it. I'm open to doing it step by step. I'm open to learning. I'm open to getting better at this. And I could learn this. This is possible. Like it's possible. If it's possible, okay, has anybody done
If
this
these
on a
two guys
planet?
could do it,
Exactly.
I can do it.
I could do it. And so I'm open to it. And so it does feel pie in the sky, but I'm open to it. It does feel like it's way out there, but I'm willing to take those steps. So that word but is a really big mind hack, because the word but negates everything that comes before it, and your brain only hears what comes after it.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys, you know, it feels pie in the sky, but I'm open to it. It feels like this is a long journey, but I'm willing to take the first step. But I'm on my way, but I'm learning, but I'm getting better at this. I like the idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason but is nice is because if you have a negative thought about yourself, Gino, then what you can do is you don't have to give up that negative belief, and you can still say an affirmation or a mantra after it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a negative belief about myself. I'm not sure if I can learn this, but I'm willing to try, but I'm open to it, but other people have. Now that I'm not sure if I can learn this part, the brain doesn't even hear that. And so it doesn't match it up. So the idea is emotional momentum. Because when you get emotional momentum, happiness is practical. Like I like to be happy, and I'm generally optimistic, but what we know about the brain is when you're happy, you get better results. And so get happy first and then take action. Get happy first, then make decisions.
So I guess, sum it up, Jake, by saying know your why. That's the first thing. I think everyone needs to know what their why is. I think the second thing is to fall in love with your actions, not your results. I think that's really important. I think people have to fall in love. Like Dana said, let me do this because it is pie in the sky. How can I become financially free if I haven't even bought a deal yet? We write down goals and we want those results to be the end result. But if we're not falling in love with what we're doing, we're not going to reach those results. So fall in love with the actions. And I think number three, if a pizza guy and a drug rep can do it, then I can do it.
You're not cooking food like Gino. I'm telling you that. But you might be able to buy real estate like
that's basically what it comes down to. And I think the reticular activating system, Jake likes to call it the flux capacitor. So everybody out there, call it the flux capacitor because we can remember that one, right, Jake? So it's really important. I mean, everything you've said resonates completely and 100% with me. The emotional momentum is important. Let's continue with this emotional momentum because that's really important.
Yeah, Jake, when I called it the flux capacitor, I promise to credit you the first 3 times I use it.
You got to credit Back to the Future. It's just the way I remember it.
Yeah, it's right.
I'm just the honeybee.
So if you think about the brain, and how it works, and when we're frustrated or when we're overwhelmed, we're just stifling our brain. We're shutting down all those creative pathways. When we get emotional momentum, we open up those creative pathways and we literally get access to better ideas. So we get access to things just like when you're looking for a car and that car suddenly starts to see itself. I had a friend not so long ago was looking for tires for her car and she said, "You won't believe it, they were on sale." And I said, "You know what? Tires are on sale 365 days a year. You only noticed it because you were looking for it." And so when you get emotional momentum, you literally start using a better brain. And so to think better thoughts, be a proactive, intentional thinker in your head, to think better thoughts, it's practical because you show up better in the world. You make better choices. You sit down to do that work and it takes you half the amount of time to do it because you get in the flow and you're like, wow, this is really working and things are happening. People like you better. You like them better. You have better engagements. You end up having better success all around because happiness is the path. And sometimes you can't be peel me off the ceiling happy, and that's okay. But if you can stay consistently in the feeling of hope and above, your brain will take you the rest of the way there. So you get frustrated with your business. That's not the time to take action. That's the time to stand up, get a glass of water, take a walk, play with the dog, put some music on.
I've experienced this in life. Sometimes when you're getting kicked around a little bit and you try to force back too much, it's almost like you just need to take a break a little bit, let things simmer a little bit.
So Jake, I'm going to throw this in here, and I don't want it to sound political, but Dana is describing what's going on in the Democratic Party right now. They're so filled with hate and anger. They can't see the next step. They're throwing everything on the wall. They're ripping things up. They're acting like petulant children, like the Republicans were 4 years ago when they were trying to get rid of the president. It's like a cycle, constant cycle. If you sit
Everybody
down,
hates each other.
Well, that's what it is. There's a lot of anger. There's no emotional momentum. They're not really thinking clearly. There's no vision.
It's resistance. It's funny about resistance. I live in Minnesota and I know you guys do not understand at all. So I'm just going to explain to you what living in Minnesota is like. You walk outside, it's 20 below, there's snow everywhere. The wind is.
I grew up in Western New York. Okay. It might have been Alaska. Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So you go outside and your reaction is to resist. It's like, oh, it's cold and this is miserable and I hate it. And it's funny, but even with something as simple as that, if you stop resisting and you go like, wow, I'm outside and it's okay. Just that lack of resistance makes it flow and it makes it go easier. And
maybe if you have 14 layers on and some really good thermal gloves, then it can make it bearable, right?
I love me some cold gear. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a bit like that. What happens to most of us is we get stuck in these habits of thought where we're resisting and we're figuring out and we're fixing and we're struggling. And if you think about when you're successful, like I'm trying to deconstruct the way I was thinking when I was in that big growth spurt from 0 to 1 million each time, both times. And I wasn't thinking, I am prosperous or money is flowing to me. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking like, whoa, this is great. Everything's going so good. Like everything I touched turns to gold. This is like amazing. I can't believe how good this is. And And so when you're trying to get into that emotional state, this isn't about trying to fix something that's broken. This is about talking about how great things are, talking about how much success you're having, because the more you talk about that, the more that matchmaker matches that up.
Mm-hmm. So
The flux.
When I
flux.
learned in life coaching school is basically trying to go from a catabolic state for a really negative, draining level to an anabolic state, which is really more high level energy. And so how do you get people to do that? I mean, you have it here. How do you get to yourself if you think your affirmations are saying BS? You don't believe your affirmation. What can you do to get yourself to believe your affirmations?
Well, that's the work, isn't it? I mean, we could like to call it the play, but that is the work. That is the play. And so one hack I gave you already, which is use the word but. So some people have a feeling they can't be successful because they're not techie enough, or they can't be successful because they're procrastinators or because they're disorganized. And that's only a problem if you talk about it like it's a problem. So we like to say the problem is not the problem. The problem is that you keep thinking and talking about the problem. So the problem isn't that you're disorganized. The problem is that you're attributing the disorganized to your lack of success, right? Mm-hmm. So you can still say you're disorganized, but follow it up with a but. I'm disorganized, but I have my own methods. I'm disorganized, but money's flowing to me anyway. I'm disorganized, but I'm still building my business, but things are going well, right? The second one is, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. You know, if your best friend came up to you and said, you know what, this is really something I really want, but I don't think I can have it. You wouldn't go, yeah, buddy, you should probably just drop it because you're not smart enough.
Depends who the friend is, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or maybe your mom or your dad, you know, it's way above your
pay
grade.
I get you. I'm sorry, I got you.
You're right. Pick better friends,
friend.
Jake. Pick better friends, right? So your friend would be like, no, look, you're going to figure it out. You're going to do fine, right? You've got to find ways into easing into good feelings. And sometimes the best you can do, is say things like, okay, I like that I can think in my head. I like that I can think one thought at a time. I like that I can focus on this thought. I like that I can shift my emotions. I like that my thoughts affect my emotions. I mean, all of those are very boring neutral sentences, but they shift you into neutral instead of being in frustration. Now you get your flux capacitor going into neutral, and pretty soon you're going 88 miles an hour. It's really is that simple, but that's the work. The work is, I can tell you all of the truth about your brain, but only you can think in your head. Mm-hmm. And so you have to do the thinking. You have to make the decision that this is important to you. Just like sometimes people make decisions about food or fashion or whatever it is. This is a decision. If you choose to, you can think differently.
So would you consider the coaching a big aspect of this also, as far as having a business coach or a personal coach helping you out? Because we do have what we call in my life coaching gremlins, like those inner critics, that inner voice in your head. So, I mean, Jake and I are huge proponents. We sell mentorship, but we are also, total learners. Every day we're trying to grow ourselves. So would you complement this with some type of coaching?
Yes, without a doubt, 100%. It helps. Anything that helps you, anything that helps keep you on track. And so listening to podcasts like this help keep your mind occupied on the positive.
What a good podcast it is, too.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And
we're not even charging for it. It's just free.
Oh my gosh, that's
what
crazy.
What am I doing?
That's my favorite price.
That is. So let me ask you the other two steps that I like to throw in there also is to identify with someone who's successful. Identify as a successful multifamily investor by doing those actions. And can you speak about also the environment? You touched a little bit about the podcast, but can people get themselves into a better environment by doing it, like joining the Jake and Gino community or doing something else as far as the coaching? What are your thoughts on that?
Without a doubt. The idea is, what are the steps I can take to best set myself up for success? And so sometimes in your own environment, you can do things like you can put little Post-it notes up that say like, today's going to be a great day, or I'm a brain trainer. I'm making this happen. I remember when I first made the decision to build the Mind Aware, because I didn't know anything about online. I didn't even know nothing really. It was terrible. And I just put a little Post-it note up that said, you've made your decision, now make it happen. And I just thought about that.
I love that.
I just thought about it all the time. And then I changed it. You're going to even like this better. I changed it to, you've made your decision, now watch it happen. And I thought, ooh, I like that. Like, it's just happening so fast. I'm just going, wow, there it goes. It's building, you know? So create an environment, set reminders up, listen to podcasts, get into communities and environment. If, you know, if there are Facebook groups or memberships that you can be a part of, then get on those memberships and hang out there. And the reality is your environment is going to be a reflection of the way you think. You know, if you have a thought that, well, I can't do this because I'm in a negative environment, then your reticular activating system is going to look for those negative people for you to hang out with. And so you have to make a decision. No, I'm surrounding myself with positive people. I'm surrounding myself with successful people. I'm doing this.
What about potentially negative people that are currently in your life? Maybe it's a family member or a longtime friend. Like, what's your approach to that? I think this is a very hot topic amongst a lot of folks.
Can I tell you a story?
Of course, that's how people learn. Well, I want to learn how you tell a story right now in addition to your answer. So let's go.
I'm going to tell you something, because this is not the answer everybody wants when they ask this question. I'm not talking about you in particular, but the people.
No, I don't want an answer. I want to know what you think.
Well, here's the truth. What do we know? We know that we have in our brain a reticular activating system. And whatever I think about, whatever I talk about, my brain looks for. So if I have a message that says, my husband doesn't support me, my husband doesn't support me, my husband doesn't support me, my brain says, this is important to you. Let's keep an eye out for all those ways he doesn't support you so that we can reinforce it and make you smart. So here's my story. I had a friend for 25 years, still do. And I was having some phone conversations with her a while back. And I was realizing, oh my God, she's so negative. It's just bumming me out. I feel like I got to take a shower every time I'm on the phone with her. Ugh. And I just can't stand it. And I would talk to my man and I'd say, oh gosh, I feel really bad because this friend's been my friend for like 25 years, but I think I'm going to have to stop hanging out with her because I just can't take it. And I was going, and then finally I went, oh my gosh, Dana, you know better. Whatever you talk about, your brain is matching up. You have got to shift this. So I shifted it. I started thinking about like all her quirky hobbies and all the fun times we used to have together. And she's kind of a practical joker and how funny she is. And really started thinking about all the fun parts of her personality. So no big surprise. Next call I got on the phone with her, we had a really fun conversation. That's not a surprise because of course my brain made that happen. But here was the surprise to me anyway. I was right in the middle of the conversation. I was just about to ask her about her partner and her daughter, which were the two things she's really negative about, right? And I caught myself and I went, oh my gosh, Dana, you have been asking her questions that have been bringing out the negativity in her. You're the one that's negative. You've been just poking at her and the topics that she's negative about, and so she shows up negative. So when I trained my own brain, she started showing up differently for me because I started acting differently. So nobody likes to hear that if you've got somebody in your life that's showing up negatively, you're the one that's got to start seeing them in a different way because you open up the window for them to be different with you. And so they will either go away or they will show up and be different. One of the two will happen. They'll be negative with everybody else in their life, but when they're around you, they're going to be absolutely delightful. But you're the one. You're the one that's got to
take responsibility and own it.
Everything, 100%.
But Dana, how do you do that? Because nowadays we're taught that it's not our fault. It's victimhood. It's somebody else's fault. People are born with privilege. And that may all be true, but it's not going to change the fact where that person is and where that person wants to go. So that's the $1 million question for me, because when I debate people, not even debate, just have a conversation with them, we can't change those facts. My quote is, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. That's what I tell my kids.
Oh, that's a good
basically
one.
Up to us. And most people don't see it that way. And we're being trained the other way. So how do we combat that?
I know. And you're just going to not like what I'm about to say, but the way we combat it is by not telling that story. That's how we combat it.
What story?
The story that, hey, guess what? Everybody's like this, and look at how they are, and look at how they are, because your brain.
No, you're missing me here. What story? Don't tell what story.
The story, right? You want to say, Gino? Gino, right now, he was asking a legitimate question. I know you weren't asking. You were asking for the general audience.
I'm saying, yeah, Jake, I'm saying basically everybody out there, it's not their fault. They're all victims. That's the victim mentality. This person is born with privilege. What can I do about it?
But anybody who's saying that, you're seeing more people who are like that.
Yes. I mean,
because of the flux.
Because of the
She's
flux.
saying your flux is noticing a lot of victimhood.
And it's a challenge. And I'm not saying yours in particular. I know you're asking a question for the general audience, but this is the challenge, because I can make a case that the world is the worst it's ever been. And I can also make a case that the world is the best it's ever been.
Whatever way you look at it.
Exactly. Right. We have more people now who are into this. We have more people who are understanding that we're conscious human beings. We have more people that are proactive thinkers in their head. We have more people that are interested in personal transformation. We have more people who want to be self-employed. We have more people who are unwilling to go to a job every day, and they want to be entrepreneurs. They want to build their businesses. We have more people who are willing to take responsibility than ever before in the history of the planet. We have more people who get this idea that you are the creator of your own reality more than ever before. And so if you're out there and you're telling that story that Gino was explaining a second ago, the cure is to tell this new story.
I agree with that. Jake, I had a quick story. My 11-year-old, we have a glass of water on the table and it's half full. So I'm trying to tell her, half empty, half full. She doesn't get it at the age. I said, if you look at a glass that's half empty, you're being really a pessimist. But if you're looking at a glass that's half full, you're being an optimist. She doesn't understand. She's like, Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. Glass is half empty. So I'm like, I'm trying to start at a young age, but 11's a little too young for that. So
one too many syllables. If you had one fewer syllables, you'd be fine. Yes. I'll tell you, if you don't mind me addressing this, because I think you brought up a really good point here about being a pessimist or being negative. I think that, people think that if I've been raised in a negative environment or I'm negative, I can't do this. And it's been my experience working, like I say, with many, many, many people, that the more negative your environment or the more negative you've been in the past, the faster this works for you. And the reason is I can take somebody like these two guys and I can say, here are a few, tricks that to add to your list of tricks that you've already got. And you can take your life maybe from a 7 or an 8 or a 9 to a 10 or an 11. But if somebody's been banging around getting results with negative thinking, they're getting 3 results. So they implement just a little bit of this and they go from 3 to 10. You have faster, quicker results when you've had a negative background.
You have greater results because you just have so much more of the field to play with there, that it's wide open.
Yeah. Desire. Yeah,
so you have written down here 20 easy to implement mindware experiments. That's a lot of. You want to give us a few of them?
Well, yes. And by the way, you'll have access to all 20 of them, but mainly they're experiments designed to, and we've been talking about them already, designed to help you be aware in any moment and shift your thinking. So another power word that I can give you that I really like, that's probably the most studied word in the English language, is the word because. When your brain hears the word because, it thinks now you've got a reason for your success. And so, and like I say, there's actual literal so many studies on this word. So you say something like, my business is growing, or I'm getting good at choosing properties because I'm studying with Jake and Gino, right? So now your brain says, oh, well, there's a reason. And so it automatically assumes you're going to be successful. There's another power word like that. That's another one of the mindware experiments called ever since. And the reason I like ever since is because when you say ever since and then say something, ever since I listened to that podcast, that with Dana Wilde on Train Your Brain, my business is growing quickly. Ever since I listened to that podcast, I'm making more money than ever. Your brain goes, oh yeah, it's true. You did listen to that podcast. I love those guys, Jake and Gino. You did listen to that podcast. And then it assumes that whatever you say after that is true. So we make a joke and say, ever since I started eating bananas on Thursdays, my business grew to the $1 million level. It can not have any correlation, but your brain makes it so. It makes it completely true.
It's that power food.
Yeah, it's power. It's brain food, banana food. That's why the gorillas are so strong.
Before we get to the short answers, just give us one more tip and how to get started. Like I said, we're driving in the car. What should they do, really? I mean, I think the awareness is important, but what else can they do to get started?
Well, the best way to get started is this. You take a Post-it note and you put it on your alarm clock, or you put it across your wall, and you have it say, I'm a brain trainer. Today's going to be a great day, or something that when you wake up, it's the first thing you see. And then when you get up and you see it, you stay in bed for 60 seconds to 120 seconds. And if you're going to fall asleep, then you sit up in bed. And you take that 60 seconds to 120 seconds and you get the emotional momentum going right then, because you're rested, you just got up, you shift your emotions right then. So you start saying, okay, that's right. I can start fresh. It's fresh day.
Start the lawnmower.
Yeah.
Have you ever started a lawnmower with a pull? It takes a minute, and then you get it going, and it's humming. You know, it takes a little bit in the morning to get it going, but I love that.
You got the best. I love these analogies. These are so good. Exactly.
How powerful is the lawnmower, though? Just feel it. Pull it a couple times. That's you starting your brain in the morning. Let's get it going.
It's so powerful. You have to wear like ear silencing headphones when you're.
And then we're going, and then it doesn't stop.
Yeah, exactly. And so when your feet hit the floor, now you've actually got some emotional momentum. And sure, you'll get knocked off by breakfast, but it's okay because you'll get right back on.
Start it back up again. And you know what? The second time you start it, it starts right away.
Wow. Aren't you
clever?
Aren't you so smart? That's so good. I know. I'm going to have to just shamelessly steal all of your analogies now. I'm so sorry.
It's the highest form of compliment you could ever give me, okay?
Rip off and duplicate, my friend. That's right.
I promise, though, I will give you credit the first 3 times.
Perfect. All right, gang, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor. Gino and I are super excited to tell you about the audiobook version of The Honeybee, which was recently released.
The Honeybee tells the story of Noah, a disappointed, disaffected salesman who feels like his life is going nowhere until the day he has a chance encounter with a man named Tom Barnum, the beekeeper. In his charming, down-home way, Tom, the bee man, teaches Noah and his wife Emma how to grow their personal wealth using the lessons he learned from his beekeeping passion.
In the audio version, Gino and I sat down for an exclusive interview after each chapter where we elaborate on the stings we felt throughout the business, the importance of scaling up, and how we've been able to create multiple streams of revenue.
For more information and to get your copy of the audiobook, visit jakeandgino.com/honeybee.
All right, we are back, and I've been taking notes, and I just want, before we get into more questions, I want you to analyze my notes and tell me what you think. So I train physically, but I also train mentally, and I want you to tell me where I'm missing. So we're talking about mental train, but I think the physical adds to the mental, but we'll leave that aside for now. So for me personally, I meditate, and this is all mostly in the morning. So we talked about starting the lawnmower. I meditate. I'm heavy into Audible in the morning. I make sure I'm getting like my vitamin D3, my good diet. Got my mantras, as you were talking about, your incantations. And then also I do, this sounds like a lot, but I really do this crap. I also do brain games, which is, literally brain training. And there's one specific one that I think has actually had, proven to have results. This is, for me, it's putting things down and following it and creating the habits to really see the results. Any thoughts on what I'm doing and where I can get better?
So you're wondering if there are thoughts that you can, or habits that you could create that you can improve. So
no,
here,
I think my question is like, this is my sort of training routine. We're talking about training the brain. And so if you're a personal trainer for the brain, where are you seeing me going wrong? Like, should I do more cardio or should I do more, pull-ups?
I love it. I love your questions. And first of all, I love your routine. It's really good. Yeah. You've got a nice balance. Everything's good. And so here would be the only piece I would add to this. The only piece is that's a great routine as long as it feels good and you enjoy it. Because
sometimes it can be a little bit of work, right? But there's nothing wrong with work. And so it does feel good. And the reason I continue doing it is because I feel like I see results and I don't have maybe a tangible measurement on there, but I feel it.
Yes. Well, for example, I work with a personal trainer, and going to the personal trainer is always harder than leaving the personal trainer, right? So I get that. You
gotta start the engine.
Yeah, so you start the engine mentally and you do the thing you do. And so what I mean by when I say as long as it feels good is that sometimes what can happen with mindset work is that people are doing stuff to make stuff happen. So I'm going to use specifically mantras. So they're sitting there going, money is flowing to me, 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 800 times.
Give me the freaking money.
Yeah. And what happens is because they're forcing themselves to do this thing, What really they're telling their brain is money is flowing to me. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this because the money is not flowing to me and I want it to flow to me.
You're not selling yourself hard enough then.
Well, so here's the
Just
thing.
kidding.
No, so here's the thing. Let me give you an example, because I'm a vegan, and I'm sure, like, nobody in your audience is a vegan, but so this will be a good example. If I had a magazine in front of me, I was at the doctor's office, I see a magazine in front of me and says the 10 best ways to add plant-based foods to your diet. I would go, I'm a vegan. I don't need to add plant-based foods to my diet. Like, this article is of
But
no
what if
use.
there's a good recipe in there?
Well, I just wouldn't read it, because it's like I'm already past it. I already see myself as a vegan. I don't need basic entry level stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when you are seeing yourself as a millionaire and as successful and as doing things, you're doing things that feel good, your brain will make the right choices. And so, for example, you probably have followers who they have a high expectation for their success in their business. They've been able to raise through the ranks. They've been able to learn things. They've gotten to, some kind of level of satisfaction in their job or promotion or whatever. But now they have a new desire, and they have a new desire to be self-employed, or they have a new desire to make passive income. And so now that level of expectation automatically helps them to find you, rather than them having to say mantras or force it to happen. Now, those habits are all good, and I have many of my own that are like that, but do them for the joy of it, and do them because because it's, you associate it with getting you the success you want, just like eating a banana on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
But know that that's also a story that you've built around that. It's got to be a feel good, because if it's not, you're just affirming the other side of the equation. You're just saying money's flowing to me, and you're just affirming that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
The money's flowing to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
It literally is flowing to me.
So that would be the only caveat. All those habits you're doing are great. They're a nice balance between, brain training and brain
I think that should be your
exercise.
next book. You take a personal trainer approach to it and put in the physical habit actions. Just
Oh,
saying.
can I tell you
buy
something? Do you know that? Have you guys read the book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because that's one of my favorite books for adding personal habits. I just absolutely love it. So let's give a shameless plug to Charles Duhigg.
Why not?
personal
Let's add
habits.
value to people's lives, right?
Yeah, it's so good. It's really, and personal habits are great. So I don't disagree with you at all.
I think it's tied in. All right, now back to the TV show here. What since we're talking about habits, what is your best habit for success when we're tying this in though? Because I kind of talked about some of mine. Do you have one that you really love?
Do you mean besides awareness and besides feeling good first and besides brain training?
Besides the formula is there like another habit that you do that's really helped out?
I do a lot of things, automatically on automatic pilot, like getting up and drinking 2 glasses of water. Like this is something that I know really serves me, and it feels good, and it gets.
What's it do for you?
Juice. Well, what it does for me, I think, is because of the way I do it and the way I visualize it, is I imagine it like lubrication for my brain. Like that water, it's like I can just feel like, okay, I just woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm actually awake. Walking every day, being in nature, really helps.
You oiled up the lawnmower.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of those things that you do because they feel good work. And that could I could say I have a habit of eating a piece of chocolate every morning. I don't, but I could say it. I eat a piece of chocolate every morning. And when I eat it, I go, man, this is making me money.
I've really been loving the raisin bread with toast lately. It's just the cinnamon raisin. It's so good. It's like one of those childhood things. Anyways, let's get some practical tips for folks out there. So you've scaled your businesses, you've sold the business. What would you say your best tip for scaling early on was?
Well, I've only got one answer, and that is train your brain.
The mindset.
Yeah, seriously. I'm not kidding. I know people say like, oh my God, she's a broken record. And why does she say that? But I'm telling you, this is the only way you can do anything. Now, when I grew the first time from 0 to $1 million, it was an offline business, and it required communicating with people. I didn't have a business card for 6 months. I was literally writing my name on a piece of paper with my email address and saying, here, get a hold of me. I didn't have a website. I didn't have any knowledge really about what I was selling. I had no training. because I had no support. I was making it up as I went along. I didn't do any of the basic things you're supposed to do in party planning. I did everything wrong because I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing this one thing right. And that is the thing. You know, there are a lot of ways to make money. And one way to make money is to work really, really hard. And another way to make money is to work really, really smart. And another way to make money is to set the expectation for yourself that when I'm in the flow, when I get the engines revved up and I'm ready to go and I get that flux capacitor working, money just flows in mass quantities. It is easy. I'm working less and making more. Things are happening for me. Opportunities are presenting themselves.
So annoying.
I don't know. I'm just lucky. Maybe I'm just lucky. You know, maybe things, but that's the story that supports it. Right. And it is annoying. Those people who do it naturally, we call them, have you ever heard the term idiot on fire? Right? Or ignorance on fire, sorry.
They're just in the zone.
Yeah, it is, because
like,
you just get, because you're using your best brain.
But it takes years to do that, because I'm at that point right now. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen over 2 or 3 years. It takes years and years of hard work and smart work. And then all of a sudden you go from 1 million to 3 million and it just happens. And this is exactly, they all talk about it. They didn't have the reason why. They just knew that all of a sudden you surround yourself. They always say the first million is the hardest to make. And then after that, well, it's the reason why you're explaining it. But you have to stay into it, and you have to stay committed, and you have to continue to lubricate the brain and tell yourself that you're doing the good job and using all those verbs that you're talking about. Because most people just quit after 6 months. They don't see the results. It took us over 2 years to make money in real estate, and for us, we were just committed. We had a strong enough why. We know why we were doing it, and we were going to figure it out. But most people quit. But if they use a lot of your strategies and techniques, I think it'll help them stay committed and stay in for the long term.
Well, and they'll be doing it for the fun of it rather than getting frustrated about the results. Because here's the truth, and nobody likes when I say this, but you're never going to have what you want. And why do I say that? Because now everybody's like, oh, so why do I say that? Because as you grow, you get what you want and you enjoy it for about 5 seconds. And then you want the new thing. And so now you're on the path to that new thing. And then you get that and you enjoy it for 5 seconds, and then you want the new thing. And so if you don't have joy in the journey, you're done. Because that's all there is the journey. That's it. Because as you grow, you keep wanting more and you keep wanting more. So you've got to enjoy the process. And this is how you enjoy the process.
So I've got
I've actually been wanting less, and it feels really good.
I've got a little brain hack for that. So my brain hack is
different terminology. I'm meaning more like, now I want to start an animal rescue.
Well, if we're talking about like stuff. Like
No.
Like,
I lived out of a backpack
and
for 10 years.
I like stuff. Like, I'm not saying, I'm not one of these guys that say like, I like stuff. I don't like all the stuff, but the G-Dad has a hack here. Sorry.
I mean more like legacy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the hack is for me was I always thought I wanted to become financially free because I wanted to be able to buy stuff and to be able to afford stuff. And now whatever I have, I'm really happy. I do want to maybe buy another house in the ocean, but I'm not working for that house. I'm working now for the Jake and Gino community to help more people and to grow and to contribute. That's where I think happiness comes from. And my dopamine hit is every time I get a student who closes a deal. That's really where my happiness is. And the ironic thing is, the more times we do that, the more times we're successful, the more deals we put on the contract, the more money we make. So it's like that wheel that keeps going around. And so if you can work towards the happiness, if you work smart, work hard, work smart, and work with passion, you put all three of those together. I mean, it's like gasoline on a fire that'll just erupt. So.
Exactly. And the hack I'm talking about is, you don't have to spend that 2 years suffering to get there. You can be happy and use that as your path to get there. And if you do that, you'll grow faster. You will grow faster without a shadow of a doubt, because you'll be using a better brain. And so that's it. You don't have to suffer to do it. If you can love what you're doing. And I know, the positive thinking movement, sometimes you see everybody out there and they're like, oh, just follow your passion, or, oh, let's just be happy and have unicorns and roses and all this. And it's not really like that from my perspective. Like, the way I'm teaching it is, happiness is practical. You want to use your best brain. And if you think you have to suffer for 2 years to get there, then you're going to suffer. But if you think, you know what, I'm going to really enjoy learning this, and I'm going to love it. And I can't wait to learn more. And I'm going to become an expert in this. I'm going to step into my celebrity on this topic, and I'm going to know everything there is to know. And when I go to family gatherings or social events, I can't wait for somebody to ask me about this, because I want to talk about this, because I love it and I'm passionate about it. And even if you haven't made dime one, when you feel that good about what you're doing, because that's how you two really got there. That's really how you get there. You may say you were working hard, but you were working like in love and with excited about your future and what you were doing and knowing you could. And your mantra was, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. I can figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
I think also there's something to be said about picking the right vehicle. I think that was one of the things that worked really well for us. And whatever, we don't got to go through a whole like crazy, conversation on that. I think that was also really helpful. The other thing I really believe is that, especially in real estate, I think, and to your point, that it's the game is won or lost upstairs. And I think even with what we do, there's a technical aspect to it, but it is 90%, mental. There's some luck that, comes into play. It's your location and stuff, but so much of it is upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap up here, any book recommendations?
Can I add something too to what you just said? Because I think what you guys are doing that's really, really smart. And so therefore, your followers are also smart to listen to their advice and do what they're doing, is that you're not trying to be all things, and you're not trying to do all kinds of things. You're saying there is this one niche market that is really, really good, and go all in with that. And if you have a passion that you can do that with, if you have something that you can learn, that's learnable. It's like going out and saying, oh, I want to learn everything there is about every single kind.
No, we tell people to stay in their lane, because I think it's a shiny object that gets you in trouble. Yeah,
exactly. And so this is, it's finding the right vehicle, but it's also staying in your lane and going all in with that vehicle. It's becoming an expert on that vehicle.
That's all we do as apartments. That's it.
Yeah, it's smart. It's
really
really
talk to
smart.
you.
Yeah. So book recommendations. My favorite book all the way around is Ask and It Is Given by Abraham Hicks. People often are surprised that's my business book recommendation, but that's it. And I already mentioned The Power of Habits too, is also a really good one. Charles Duhigg.
I thought she was going to say Napoleon Hill.
Oh, of course. That's
I thought that was coming.
That's also a good one too, of course. It's hard when you're an avid learner, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should, if you haven't, you should do a show with Jeffrey Gitomer. I think you guys would hit it off.
Oh, I know him. Yeah, I should. That's a good idea.
That would be a good one for you.
You see how the brainwaves went?
The flux, man. The flux just hit. It's like, Jeff, we go back. I hang out.
So good. So good.
What is the best way for listeners to get a hold of you? And do you have any treats to hand out? Do we got a little something for the folks here? I
do. So, of course, you can just go to danawilde.com and learn anything you want to learn. But if you go to the secret danawilde.com/wheelbarrow, you will get the entire Train Your Brain book, that book right there.
Hold on. Let's give it nice and slow, because I want to make sure we got the right site here.
danawilde.com/wheelbarrow. And it's I like audiobooks, because I think you guys are probably the same way, where you can do two things at once. You can listen to stuff, and you can work out, and you can learn. And so you don't do that? No?
Jake's an audio guy.
Maybe driving. I can try it. I'm just telling you, it's not going to be as effective. If I'm going to try to do something, I'm going to try to do it, because I've attempted to do it in the past, and I just know that I miss stuff.
Interesting. Well, I can see that too. I do.
Driving, I'm good. I can do it driving.
I do have to hit that pause button. And there are apps for that, where you can hit and say, like, this was a good point, and it will save it for you. So that's also good.
I don't need any more apps at this point.
Yeah.
Limiting belief, blah, blah, blah. I should have said that.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. Well, you like less stuff, so it works. I like less stuff too.
Let's just have a little simplicity.
Yeah. So if you want, the whole entire audiobook is free, and it gives you all 20 mind for experience, all that good stuff. And really, the fun thing about what I do is that you can take this and you can use it for anything. If you want to work out more, you learn the principles of how the brain works, you can work out more. If you want to be a better parent, if you want to teach your kids this, if you want to have a better golf game, whatever you want, you'll get there.
G-Father, what you thinking?
A lot of things. We talked about idiots on fire. We talked about lawnmowers. We talked about
that was my favorite part.
Flux capacitor. We talked about the words but, because, ever since. We talked about, I think the most important thing, Jake, is honestly, if you're going to get into an endeavor, you need to surround yourself with like-minded people. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to raise your level of energy. That's why the boot camps that we have, the money mixers that we have, the coaching that we have, it's not just training videos. Anybody can go on YouTube and do a few training videos. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to surround yourself with people who want to achieve what you want to achieve. And when you get on a call, you're really excited. When you get on a coaching call, you're done. You can't wait for 2 weeks to get on the next coaching call. That's what it's all about. And that's, I think, the most important thing. That's what I think people miss. They look at the cost of it. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your brain. It's an investment that you'll have for the rest of your life. So it changed my life 10, 15 years ago when I was coaching with real estate. And then I went to life coaching. I wish I had done the life coaching first and then the real estate, but I did the reverse because I just didn't know. And I think it's just complete personal development. What do you got, bro? No chainsaw.
Dana, so this is, I'm probably, this is going to come back to bite me in the ass, but I think I probably owed Gino some money. You know why? Do you want to know why?
Oh, I'm scared.
Well, no, he went and did all this education and then I just drafted behind him and he just I picked it all up for free. So I think I owe him a couple bucks.
He's the smart one.
But you were just training your brain saying like, I'm going to find the right.
I got to find me a Gino.
I'm going to float right along.
Thanks, G-Dad.
Dude, anything I can do for you, you know that. So the flux capacitor goes on and he says, Gino, you want to write another book? I'm like, sure, Jake. Gino, you want to launch another program? Sure, Jake. Gino, you want to have another live event? Sure, Jake. So he knows, he asks, and I will do. So that's how.
Well, that's a yes attitude.
Yes.
That's really it. It does. It makes a huge difference. And some people do this naturally, and some people you learn how to do it. But either way, it gets you there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need a shirt that says the G-Dad abides. Kind of like the dude abides.
G-Dad abides. I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's flipping awesome.
You can use it 3 times, Dana. Then you got to the first 3 times.
So I'll give you royalties after that. We'll get long-term royalties.
Okay, Dana, we got to run. Anything else for the folks before we hop off?
No, I just really want to say, take it easy with this. We all have bad days. I get angry every single day at my computer. It's not like you walk around blissed out every day like a happy little elf or something. You're going to have real emotions, but just know that you can shift them. Know that you can shift them. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You are a proactive thinker in your head. And so just be aware that you have a choice. You have a choice what you think.
And remember, you are the master of your fate and you are the captain of your soul. If you can think that every day and have gratitude, your day will be much better.
Dana, thank you for raising my level of energy today. G-Dad, thanks for everything that you do. Peace, love, and prosperity, folks. We'll see you.
Thanks, everybody.